You're listening to The ManCave with Lexington Steele and co-hosts Andre Lavelle and John E. Depth, right here on LA Talk Radio.
What's going on, people? This is your main man, Lexington Steele. It is the ManCave live show here on latalkradio.com. Now, tonight we will be going into quite a few topics, but we do anxiously await the arrival of co-host Andre Lavelle, who should be joining us momentarily, as well as Isaiah Maxwell, young gentleman, will be joining us as well. Undoubtedly, people, you must understand that LA traffic is well beyond what is normal in most major cities, as LA is full of single drivers. And even as we speak, Coach Andre Lavelle has made it into the studio. We're happy to see him in studio. Have you made it? How you doing, Andre?
I'm good, man. Traffic was a little crazy today.
It was always good to see you here in the ManCave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See what I'm saying? Now, it is January 8th, and this is wonderful, people. Isaiah Maxwell has made it into the studio. We are in full effect here at the ManCave. Gentlemen,
I made it.
What is happening out here in the world right now? I mean, we can jump right into it. In case people are not familiar with what has been happening in the sports world, I want to just make sure that we address a couple of sports issues. Andre, what do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's go for it.
See what I'm saying? Now, Andre and I have Fourth and Goal Sports Talk. We didn't broadcast this week, so we do have one or two things to get out.
Definitely.
First and foremost, I'm going to give these other two up, but then we're going to engage Andre real quick. First and foremost, 2013 Heisman Trophy winner Jameis Winston has indeed, Florida State University quarterback, has indeed made himself available for the 2015 NFL Draft, having needed to make his assertion by January 15th. So he has definitively decided to leave the NCAA football conundrum, and we will address his circumstances a little bit later on in the ManCave. Next up, we do have on, next week, Monday, I believe, we have Oregon Fighting Ducks, that is, facing off against the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Yes, sir.
See what I'm saying? For the NCAA. Oh, you like
I'm from Cleveland.
See what I'm saying? Ohio in the house. You're going to be voting for Ohio State, right?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
You know what I have to say, and I'm a little bit older than this demographic, but if you look at the young gentlemen that are being taken into consideration for such a major football program such as Oregon, you got to be swayed by these uniforms.
Oh, man.
You got to be swayed
uniforms are bad.
Every week.
Oh, yes.
It's like, you know what I'm saying?
You
look at these uniforms.
Down the best uniforms of the year, decade, whatever, whoever's there.
And you got to wonder. You always wonder what are they going to wear next week, right? I mean, what are they going to wear Monday? Are they going to come in a suit, a uniform that renders them, visually invisible?
Oh, we have a call coming through.
You know what? Let's dive right into it. What the hell? We're here in the ManCave. This is what we do. We talk shit.
Hello, caller. Caller, you with the ManCave? Hello.
Yeah. Am I on the air?
Yes, you are.
Hey, how's it going, fellas? This is Dave out of, I've just moved to South Carolina, but I'm a New York native. How's it going?
You're doing great.
Dave, what's going on?
Yeah, I know, I kind of jumped in late on the conversation, so I'm not sure what we're talking about, but I know you want to talk about sports and a couple of other things. I'll save the sports talk for the show next week, but I want to talk about a little bit about the Cosby situation.
Wait. First, we got a few things to get to before we get into that. We've covered that quite a few weeks.
Okay.
But before we get any further, I was in the midst of making this announcement. We wanted to get into real quick, and you stay with us, David, right?
Yes, Dave.
Okay, Dave, stay with us, of course. But before we get any further, we wanted to finish addressing the fact with these sports announcements. Now, one of the things I want to particularly bring up is we did have a situation with light heavyweight UFC champion light heavyweight John
Bones Jones.
Now Andre Lavelle is a mixed martial artist as well as a personal trainer.
Yes, sir.
You are a master of a number of fisticuff, a skill set that includes a number of fighting disciplines.
Yes, sir.
What is your take on Bones Jones submitting himself or committing himself to a drug rehab? Is this something that is set to cover up a problem, or is it meant to diffuse a problem?
I see it
Well,
as,
did he disclose? Well, here's the thing about that. I mean, you very rarely have an athlete in the middle of their sport come out and say that they're dealing with a drug issue. So if he commits himself to rehab, I think it's great. Anyone who gets help for a problem, I think it's great. But I'm curious as to whether or not this is a substance abuse or regular, coke or weed or alcohol, or is this some sort of steroid or some sort of other issue?
It was. They explained that it was one of the remnants of cocaine.
Okay.
Right. Well,
I think it's interesting.
It was definitely
interesting
cocaine.
because there's been a lot of conversation about whether some of these mixed martial arts artists, and you don't want athletes, I should say, and you don't want to paint everybody with a broad brush, whether they're a little amped up when they get in the ring, or whether they do something or take something so that they can have their energy level a little spiked.
No, Dave, I'm going to jump right on. I'm going to jump all over you on that point. First and foremost, at this particular level of professionalism, the caliber of these athletes dictates that they cannot come in hopped up on the day of an event. That is professional suicide, to put it quite bluntly. Now, if you say to me that perhaps John Jones, in the celebrity that he has enjoyed at, I believe, what is it, John Jones, 22? 24?
He's around.
All right. If you look at the measure of celebrity that he's enjoyed in his short tenure, he's already being considered perhaps the greatest fighter in Ultimate Fighting. Okay. Now, if you ask me, has this guy partied? Has he partied? Do I party?
Yeah.
Do I party like that? Maybe not.
Nah.
I don't have John Jones money.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Now, if I had
yeah.
John Jones money, I might, I might be like, what's the guy, OT Genesis, who's in love with the Coco? I don't know if you're familiar with that cut.
All right, caller. Thanks. We appreciate your call. We got another call coming in.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Dave.
Hello, caller. Welcome to the Man Cave.
Do we have him?
Hello, caller.
Okay, but just to reiterate what Dave brought up, we do appreciate the call, Dave. I just think that, and Andre, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is it likely? And Dave suggested, our caller suggested, is it likely that Jones, may have been engaging in cocaine use in preparation for a bout? I mean, obviously they don't fight every week. But of course, now these drugs may stay in one system long enough that is identifiable. I'm not familiar with such.
Well, I'm not sure when the testing period was, but because it wasn't a banned substance, he was allowed to fight.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you think that it's possible they may have known prior to the bout?
Oh, I'm sure they knew. Perhaps because they did it was a random drug test prior to the fight.
It was okay.
It was prior to the fight.
Okay,
Yeah, but
okay.
it's not on the banned substance list. So
okay, okay.
He was partying a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I wonder in these testing systems, and gentlemen, correct me if I run off the road here. Do drugs like cocaine and Molly, which is a form of pure MDMA, do these things, do they come up on the same test? Are they testing for all types of recreational drug activity? Because if they were testing for marijuana, and I would suggest people, it happens, but it is less likely that one would totally jump over marijuana and straight to the use of cocaine. I would think that perhaps marijuana is indeed in some ways a gateway drug, as it has been considered. So now marijuana stays in the system in your hair follicles for up to 6 months. So if he was smoking herbs, he really would have been putting himself at risk. I just think that this might have been an outlier. Quite obviously, you would hope that these guys of that ilk, that caliber, are not. But if
we look at athletes from the 70s,
right,
on
80s
through
in
the 80s,
baseball,
yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys were.
Oh my God! I tell you something. They did random drug testing in Major League Baseball throughout the '80s.
Yeah.
If you people, I hearken back to George Brett and the Kansas City Royals, the bat tar incident where he had too much tar on his bat above a certain point on the bat. You can't have the tar for stickum.
Hold on, caller.
And
Hello?
could we have a caller come? We have a caller coming?
Yeah, we have a call right here.
What do you want, caller?
This is Brandon Bolin calling in.
Hello, Brandon Bolin. Brandon Bolin. Yes.
All right, Brandon, 1 second. I'm going to complete this thought. This is the notion that back in the day, if you were to shine a light like it's been shined on John Jones now, if you shined it on the NBA circa 1980 through 90, 90 through 99, if you will, if they had random drug testing to this measure, perhaps there would have been a lot of people that would have been brought to light. And then this would happen to John Jones. Let's just hope that the young man gets himself some help and some treatment. He gets off the yayo.
Yeah, he got too much baking soda.
I got baking soda. For people that might not know what that is from, but check out OT Genesis. He's in love with the cocoa. So what's going on, caller? Talk to us, buddy.
This is Brandon Bolin. He is not only a phenomenal stand-up comic, writer, and filmmaker, but he's also an activist and a contributing writer to the Huffington Post.
Yes,
Brandon. So I asked him to call in tonight. Yes.
I didn't know what number I was calling. I was expecting maybe Uber to come pick me up. Nobody sent nothing through. So I was, am I going to order pizza? Am I going to go to the Man Cave where nobody but Andre knows me? And try to call in and see what's happening and say hi to folks. Do we have Lexington D still there?
Are you watching this on video or just talk to us on the phone?
I'm talking to you on the phone. I can't get to my video right now, I'm calling in to talk to you. And the D stands for, don't touch that, man.
Man, I had to tell that to plenty of my girls. Trust me.
Uh-oh.
Like, watch out for him.
Oh, you know what? Before we get any further, Isaiah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Isaiah was on the Lexington Live show, and we're happy to have Isaiah back here on the Man Cave Live show. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Not only is he an entrepreneur, but he's a young man doing things here in Los Angeles. Tell us who you are, Isaiah.
I mean, I'm Isaiah. I'm from the little boy from Cleveland. I started off in this industry as an intern to become a publicist, and then made my way to become an agent. And shortly after, performing on camera. Try to be like a triple threat within the industry by incorporating all of my jobs together to promote everybody out and promote myself out.
Okay, so now you manage a number of adult video actresses.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, Isaiah and I have done business over the last couple of years in terms of my casting your ladies in my production. So we're happy to have you back here in the Man Cave. As you do know, this is barbershop talk, okay? So you don't have to hesitate. If there's something you want to say, hop in. We got the caller online. He's hopping in. We got Andre who's regulating. Let's go, people.
All right, most deaf.
Okay, so I think we had mentioned that we were going to talk about what's going on over there in Paris with the Islamic situation.
Well, what we have, was it 9? Is it 9? Is it 9 or 12 that were lost?
12.
12.
And actually, another woman, a police officer, was killed today, and they're linking that to she was killed on the outside of Paris. What this opens up around the world, really, what's going on. There's two debates. Is religious fundamentalism and free speech.
Right.
And free speech speaks directly to your industry, directly to what the young brother's trying to do. We don't, unless we have champions of that here in the United States of America, your industry doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that people don't go for that. It doesn't mean that people don't have that industry. Like in places like Iran, they'll kill women for doing certain things.
Right.
But they have rules like, okay, to have sex with a prostitute, you marry her first, and then you divorce her right when you finish having sex. Okay.
Is that?
So we're talking about it's crazy. So we're talking about right now is the affrontment of how people may take certain ridicule as opposed to the actions they take, and then you have to put in there. Okay, is it also? We also talking about military action, militantism. Are we all talking about fundamentalism in the idea of freedom? Are they freedom fighters? Are they ISIL? Satellites? Are they taking up the idea of fighting in the Western world in a pod sense where everyone's supposed to be afraid of them? Remember, we just had a scare where there was some supposed hackers that were connected with North Korea that told people, don't go to the theaters. It wasn't the Sony drop bombs on the emails and the texts that really got the feds in. It's when they literally threatened the physical harm of people going to a theater to watch a movie. And you know what? We capitulated.
Right.
So the question is, right now, today, despite the support around the world for this freedom speech, despite the fact that there's a lot of Muslims who have jumped up and said, you know what, we're not down for that. we still have a conversation to have about free speech as opposed to, how much ridicule do we take? How much ridicule is it important to fight for?
Right. Now the debate is moving on, and there's two sides to this particular debate. I mean, first and foremost, you have the side that says, look, there's been lives lost. And in those lives lost, these were people that are deserving of the rights to their freedom of speech. And we can understand that in some cases the pen is more powerful than the sword. Conversely, you're looking at the standpoint of whether or not are in support of these lost lives. Are you aligning yourself? Are you allying yourself with a magazine that is widely held to be a racist publication? Now, when I say racist publication, I do not speak in terms of ethnicity, black, white, or other. I'm speaking in terms of, on a religious standpoint, whether it's Christianity or Judaism. They have actually excoriated all the major religions in their satire. Their cartoons have not been necessarily friendly to all, maybe friendly to only some. So there lies the rub, because if you are actually going to think that you could desecrate the image of the Prophet Muhammad or the Most High Allah, then obviously you're going to raise the ire of a great majority of human beings on the planet Earth, and some of those would include those that would have violent reprisals. Now, perhaps we've seen that live and in person play out in Paris.
Yeah, that's strange.
And
but see, here's the thing: if you're going to say, if you just mentioned that they talk about all religious icons, then they're equal opportunity,
right?
And they can't be racist by that definition. And if we're talking about racism, and I'm not saying that they don't publish things that are against a certain people, but they publish things against a lot of different people.
But if that's their culture,
the question I think I have is that, you know what, if you're in Iran right now and you do certain things where Iran says it'll put you to death, you're in their country.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? They have their rules, their right. Now, if you're against them, then you fight from within then. But they don't have the right to come to a Western world where we talk about, and free speech is always subjective. So let's clear that up right now. We as black men know that speech ain't as free as they talk about it is. You dig what I'm saying? There are repercussions for everything that we do when we speak out for ourselves. Even when we speak up for ourselves, you've seen that what's happening in New York with the police officers right now.
Well, no.
Brothers did was
honestly, hey, wait. You know what? I got to stop right there, because I will not. You would have to prove a correlation between what's happening domestically and this particular circumstance. Now, bearing in mind, the cartoon was released online, was it last year or more? I remember when it was originally released. Now, this has nothing to do with anything domestic in the United States of America.
Well, he was speaking in reference to freedom of expression and freedom of speech, the correlation between what we say we want and how it actually is.
Now, what does it have to do
freedom
with...
only a certain group have total freedom in this country.
What about this begs the question of black African American?
Well, he was saying the correlation between the reality of black men or black people in this country and certain freedoms.
Right.
It's an illusion.
Understood, but I'm saying in terms of cartoon, the political satire. Okay, as put forth by the magazine. Where does this become a black-white issue?
Anyone has a right to put forward. I'm sorry, I interrupted. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I'm just putting it on the table.
Right.
Okay. Anyone has a right to, and I just talked about this. Anyone has a right to ridicule, and they do. We also have a right to stand up against that ridicule, and people do not profit from that. So when you start into boycotting and that, you're stopping people from earning money for ridiculing. But you cannot go lay hands or pull a gun on a Klansman if he's carrying a "Go Back to Africa, Nigger" sign.
Right.
Matter of fact, you can see those signs all through the Tea Party. So there's nothing, you know what I'm saying? Like to us, to black people in the United States of America, okay, the so-called the Confederate Jack is a symbol of treason.
Oppression.
But they fly it anywhere chance they get. And I often ask, I wrote in one of my articles, I said, what do black conservatives do when they see that flag? What, do they act like it's not there? They put their hands in their pockets and walk to the side?
Right, like if you're a black representative,
they can fly it, and you have no right to go over there and snatch it from them.
Right. Well, if you're a politician, a black or African American politician in Georgia, I mean, every day if you're in the state capitol building in Georgia, every day you're seeing that flag as you're on your way into the office.
But knowing that the Islamic people who have done this have those views.
Do we know they're wait? Do we know they're Islamic?
Well,
Yes,
that's what it's,
Okay. Hey,
that's
I
what the
got to play
assumption
devil's
is.
advocate.
Yeah, that's what the assumption is.
Right.
But knowing that, okay, it's been proven that they're this way about the religion.
Right.
Why would you incite them? Why would you? I mean, they're with freedom comes responsibility.
Right.
You know, why would they feel that it's okay to make a movie about a dictator that's sitting? They could have made up a fictional character. Why incite people?
Okay, but let me ask you this, though, along those lines. Where does it stop then? Who's the person that makes the subject? Who's the person that stands in and says, okay, it stops here? Who's the person? Because what will happen definitely, I mean, you know, your industry to be the first one. Our entertainment industry in the general will be the first ones that are attacked. And I mean, people will, you know, we saw this happen in the Soviet Union era with the House of Un-American Activities. And we saw some of our greatest icons, Paul Robeson being one of them, went from making $1 million a year to $1 a year because people tried to get the idea of self-destruction from inside out. And I'm saying, who steps in and says, okay, it stops here?
What about personal responsibility? What about individuals, just common sense of what's right and what's wrong?
Who's common sense?
Yeah, because common sense,
whose ideology comes from an ideology that you may not agree with.
Right, because I mean, there's many of
who's the judge of that?
There's a number of functional ideologies. Worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
So the declaration of right versus wrong, while we do have a collective as you know, as a oneness with along the planet. I mean, our discretion may be different, skewed country to country. Our realities are different, and depending on what country you're from, obviously.
But that goes back to individual cultures, understanding those cultures and being sympathetic towards those cultures. It's like the Eurocentric mindset is do what we say, period. What we say goes, nobody else matters.
Now, is that a Eurocentric or is that a Western?
About. And I have to say this, that, you know, if we're talking about the state carrying the law, that's the purveyor of this whole situation. When you start bringing religion in it, and these people brought religion in, look, the officer that was killed, that they summarily executed on this, he was a Muslim. Ahmed, I think it is his last name, Mubarak, or Ahmed Mabek, I think his last name is.
So that might have been a truly random attack then. That was a most random attack then with this latest officer then?
No, he was outside of Charlie Hebdo. He was out there. He was right. He was the officer. They shot him. It is the video that was.
Oh no! But wasn't there another?
They shot him, and this is the connection I just want to make real quickly in the visual. He's sitting there. He starts pleading for his life.
Right.
They shot him. He's on the ground. He's rolling. They come up. The guy rolls up on him and just shoots him in the back of the head. Just assassinates him like that. Very close to what the brother said happened with Mike Brown in the street of Ferguson. And when we stand up, this is what I'm saying, when we stand up, all we do, you know, there were some brothers that went off over there. We wouldn't know what Ferguson was if there wasn't some burning that went down, okay? But when we stand up in New York and in these other cities, and all we do is march and scream, the police officers turn their backs. They begin the process, and it was way before those two officers were killed. They begin the process of trying to devalue us standing up for our humanity.
Okay,
and that's why I'm saying the same visual link can be seen in a situation where you have people that go into a Western world where they have free speech and say, you know what, we bombed that building and now we're going to kill everybody in there because they don't believe what we believe.
Yeah, but you know what, I fail to see the connective correlation between this and Henderson, Missouri. If you look at Henderson, if you look at what's happening here specifically. Unarmed black men being assassinated by armed officers of the law, and you know, take that with a grain of measured salt, if you will, gentlemen. But what I'm simply saying is are we looking at? I fail to see a correlation between a domestic incident such as Ferguson and an international incident such as Paris, because if we look at the incident in Paris, we're looking at a number of different countries. Not only Paris, but we also have to include Denmark as well, and wherever the assailants were from. They may not, as been determined, while they may be Arabic, we don't know what country they may be from, but that equates to an international incident by way of the number of countries involved, where Henderson is just strictly a domestic circumstance.
No, he was saying that the correlation between them is the visual of these people who wanted to limit their expression. And when we expressed our right, the police wanted to limit our expression.
Yeah, but you're talking about policing versus assassination. Now, if you're looking at,
well, we have been assassinated.
Okay, but what we're comparing is we're comparing a military-style terrorist attack on a magazine. Okay, military terrorist versus civilian versus.
What do you call what they did in Ferguson with those tanks and going through neighborhoods and
right
throwing smoke?
But we didn't see assassinations by way of death with automatic weapons. I mean, I cannot compare the two. They're two different. I believe they're apples and oranges.
Military.
Well, actually,
intrusion.
there were reports from the survivors that these men spoke perfect French.
Okay.
The young one that turned himself in, they were born. They're from Arab extract from one of the colonies. They've been there for a while. The first time I went out to France in 1990, I went to one of these underground clubs. It was an Arab community that's been in France for quite some time. I mean, since the 40s, they've been locked in there, and they were jamming the hip hop. They were using hip hop as their protest music. So these people are homegrown. It is a domestic issue in France.
Right.
And what I'm trying to say is there's a correlation between the intolerance of people looking at situations and what you saw as the reaction of the police officers. And it's all being, foisted up in some sort of configuration by the union, the guy who's running for the union out there in New York. And that's what even makes it even more, villainous, is that it's about him trying to promote himself or his own power or his own situation.
Wait, who is this? Who in particular?
Through this tragedy.
Who is trying to promote themselves? You're suggesting?
Lynch, the man who's running for union president out there in New York, and how he's kind of using the death of those officers and the whole situation that is turning in, because them turning around on the mayor. The mayor had nothing to do with those officers dying. It's what happens when people lose confidence in the police department. And I have a lot of brothers ask me, says, well, what took so long for people to fight back? There's a lot of white people that think that. What takes so long? You have death after death after death after death of these people, and when they say they're not going to indict a person, that's saying that death isn't even worth looking into. We're not even talking about trial. So when you have that over and over and over, people actually they start looking ahead. So what's wrong with y'all? How long does it take for you to fight back? Now, I'm not down for it. I'm just saying that's what happened.
What you're discussing is whether or not there needs to be an awakening of a sleeping giant, if you will. Now, and point well taken. But what I will contest is that certainly enough, as an African American community, if we are particularly lacking distinct, tangible leadership, there seems to be a discount of rallying points or lightning rods, if you will. Certainly enough, if we turn our backs on historic lightning rods, i.e. Al Sharpton's or your Jesse Jacksons, which we have seen our community really relegate these individuals to no longer being substantive in our community. As long as we continue to do that, then we are lacking true leadership. So I think if there needs to be a rallying point, I think first and foremost there needs to be a point central. We need to agree upon a person that we can rally upon. Now, not for nothing, as a community, if we cannot rally behind the leader of the free world, if we cannot rally behind the president of the United States, we cannot rally behind POTUS, then who the hell can we rally behind?
Well, I'll tell you this. Both Jackson and Sharpton. Sharpton was doing this from the time he was 13. Jackson actually joined the Corps with MLK and them at around 23 when Martin Luther King needed some younger faces to begin the process of trying to fold in the young brothers from Chicago, as well as dealing with SNCC that had grown and some of the breakoffs that had started their own thing. And I'll say this, is that it's time for a younger generation to take the reins. Sharpton represents a giant bullhorn. That's what he's good for, and that's what he should be regulated to. Jackson is 70-something years old. It's time for young brothers who were their age when they started to take over. Our generation kind of, I'm not going to say you, but I'm going to say me and our generation kind of romanticized the thug life and all this other bullshit that went down. And even though I've been protesting since I first got into college, it doesn't necessarily mean that we've always taken the right road in presentation. I'm very proud of the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm very proud of what the young brothers did at Occupy, and I'm also very proud that it was one point in Ferguson I was live streaming it on my site, thedarkroom.com, and there was one moment on the Sunday, man, these brothers, they got together, they were in the movement, these old cats got up and started talking about, okay, here's what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. And right next to them, they were right in front of a police line, and right next to them there were some young brothers to the side, and they were like, look, they don't speak for us. We're trying to make these things happen. This brother doesn't speak for us. I don't even know this brother's name. And you think that looks like some dissonance, right? But that's what happens all the time until we find out who the leaders are, who's willing to stand up. These things have to be metered out, and they're not always metered out, cleanly and nice looking. There's some inner fighting that occurs.
Right.
And that's where you get the stronger ones. It's time for those young brothers to step up. It's time for Jesse and them to step to the side because they can be mentors, but they can't be the front of it. The front of the fight needs to be handled by the future, not handled by the past.
Okay, now to that end, I would like to pose this to you, Isaiah. What is your take on this? Whereas, if there needs to be an enlightening or the embodiment of a rallying point, a lightning rod from a younger generation, you yourself are in your early 20s, correct? Yes. Okay, so do you see, from your standpoint, any leadership that could take the reins in what needs to happen for corrective measure?
I don't see a leadership forming at the moment, but what I do see is a repetition of our history. It's us fighting through the struggle of trying to get our rights, and then them coming out with rights, calling it equal, and then we being satisfied for a little bit, and then we're continuing on. I mean, if people just brush up on their history, they could start to see stuff like this coming about and be able to prevent it from future happening. I think people tend to forget their history and forget where people like us came from, and so then they tend to forget all of these problems that come up and affect us, and when it does, it sounds completely new to them, but back in the days, it's happened to our mothers and our fathers, and different generations before us. So, I mean, I just think that our history is misconstrued against our community, and it goes all the way back to Africa when we were selling ourselves as slaves. We was never kind of a community, and I view other cultures, such as the Hispanic, the Asians, and the Caucasian cultures, and I see how unified they are and how well they.
Whoa! Now, you know what? I was with you for a minute there, but for you to say that there is there's unity in other facets and other races, I will contest that. If you look at within the European community, they are about as splayed as you can get. Certainly, and if we looking from a unity standpoint, I get that from an Asiatic standpoint. If you look at the Asiatic, if you look at China or Japan, and whether in smaller Asian countries like whether it's Vietnam or Korea,
you micro.
Well, I'm saying from the standpoint that those countries have never shown imperialistic intentions by way of comparison to a Germany or an England or a Spain or Portugal.
I'm sorry, brother. I don't want to have to correct you on that measure.
Please do.
But you do realize that Japan was called the Japanese Empire, right? The imperial.
Okay, because
you realize that they had an emperor, and the emperor was deemed a god.
I understand that, but peep this. But you're talking within the country of Japan. Now, if you're going to tell me that Japan,
you just said that they didn't, and also Korea has a storied history of an empire.
Of contingent, right? But empire within Korea.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely.
Now,
that's North and South Korea.
Exactly.
One went socialism, the other one went supposedly democratic. But before that, and Korea had never been conquered, actually. So before that, it was an empire. It was an empire of Korea. That's exactly right. And it was an extension.
Okay, wait.
I think he was saying that as far as going out conquering other countries, other nations.
Right.
Absolutely. Japan. If you've heard of the rape of ManCave, Japan went in and took over Vietnam. And you know what they did? It was a very beautiful thing. They did it first. They went in, they kicked out the French, and they said, hey, look, those Europeans don't have no business being in Vietnam. We're Asian. We know you. We treat you. And they went right in there, and they put the Vietnamese to work like slaves in the tin mines because they needed the resources.
Understood.
So, the Empire of Japan, that was a whole war. You're talking about the Axis Empire, Axis powers. That's exactly what it was, a God-driven empire. And matter of fact, I'll tell you right now that something's interesting, this little arcane information, but the royal family in Japan is so cut off that they speak a dialect of Japanese that is sometimes incomprehensible because they're so put in a bubble. That's how far away and they still have they still have
Wait.
an
You know what?
family.
No. Look, I premised my statement by saying from an Asiatic standpoint. Now, if I said anything that alluded to an Asiatic people citing imperialistic actions against non-Asiatic countries, then you have a point. But I'm talking Asian on Asian. Now, I'm talking, if you look at the different European countries which have exercised imperialistic actions, I named a laundry list of countries, including the United States of America. So I'm simply saying Asian on Asian, that is not the imperialism that I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you're Portugal, and now you're Portugal, or if you're the Netherlands, or if you're Great Britain, or if you're Spain, and you're carving up the country of Africa. That is the imperialism with which I speak of.
I mean, once again, the biggest rival of Japan was Russia, and the reason why is it was right across the sea. They've had some of the greatest naval battles in history. Japan has invaded that mainland many times, and then many different types of people, including black Mongolians that have fallen under the thumb of Asians. Empire is not a race-driven thing in any way, shape, or form, including in Africa, which I will say that we kind of need to get a way of treating Africa as if it's a county.
Wait. Empire, making the distinction between empire and imperialism. Imperialism is the exercising of one's military and capital, or military and commercial powers over another country. Okay.
Imperialism is a basic system where you have satellite, like for instance, the Indian satellite rulers in behest of an empire, of an emperor or empiric rule. That would mean a king, a queen, anything that comes from an empiric rule. It doesn't have to adhere to any specific tone of how to use a measurement in which you're talking about money or military. As long as the government is set up as an empire, as a kingdom, or as a monarchy, you're talking about imperialism.
Well, empire.
You're not talking about capitalism. You're not talking about communism.
I'm not. But I'm saying
imperialism is. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, an empire, right, being a noun. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're looking at an empire. The action of imperialism is going beyond one's particular country into another and assuming those properties and rights within that country which you are essentially taking over.
Yeah, that's one of the acts, sure.
Right.
The United States did it, and almost everybody on the planet.
I certainly haven't excluded the United States.
Every continent on the planet has done that.
Right.
Every continent.
Okay, and so that being said, would we agree that other nationalities have been put under the thumb of Eurocentric mindset?
I'll say this to what he had to say about the Asian stuff, and it's something that I think we need to think about too. When you run into certain cultures over here, especially like immigrants, and I'm sure all of us have had those conversations, these conversations with immigrants and stuff like that. You're running into some of the greatest hustlers on the planet. I mean, they left where they were to go to a new country to try to make it. Right. So they're going to be the go-getters. My grandfather was one of those people. I'm pretty sure all y'all got lineage of people that do that, okay? You can't necessarily judge their entire culture or embrace how they stick together on the people that you're seeing here that are the greatest, you have enough of them come over, then you're going to see disparate behavior. It happens. It happens all the time. So the way to do it is to look back at their nations. Because I know several, I have great friends that are Nigerians, and, they're some of the, greatest cats on the planet. But you look at Nigeria, and some of the corruption is overflowing. And you have to say to yourself, okay, how do they make that marriage? So I wouldn't necessarily say that one group sticks together better than the other. What I will say is that we are always the target of certain behaviors, especially by white supremacy in the United States of America, which is in the genes of this country. We are always a target, and thus we catch the laser. We have to be, quote unquote, the tip of the spear to change things because we catch most of it. You dig what I'm saying? Right. I will agree with you on that. I think there's a difference between saying that and saying, well, Mexicans stick together more than we do, because if you look at the country of Mexico, in some places, northern Mexico is basically a failed state. They basically handed entire regions over to drug lords.
But I would say that people who come from other countries, there is a synergy among them because they have a language, a religion, a culture
that they bring with them.
Yeah. Right. Whereas we have no collective culture, language, or religion in this country.
And please let me reiterate the point. I am speaking domestically. Once we go outside of America itself and look at it into other cultures, I'm trying to date back the history of our community going back as far as to us being brought into this country. So I mean, we was already brought here against the will of our people, and so we got to kind of form a community within ourselves to figure out how we want to live here. Is what these rights that we're asking for are the rights that we really want, because like you said, people came from Asia to hustle here, and they knew what they wanted when they came here, and the synergy that was brought over from the communities of different cultures coming from other countries here together in America is much stronger than the African American, to myself, from my perspective. I mean, I've been in LA for over 10 years and been in Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland is black and white, and within the black community is family. And so coming over to LA, I just see stronger communities held in the Armenian district, in Little Tokyo, and little areas here and there. I'm not saying that we're not together. I'm just saying we got to look back into our history and start forming a kind of like a point that we would like to come across, because we're marching and we're not knowing what we're asking for. And I'm saying, if we're going to be leaders, let's start creating the pinpoints of what we would like, and then put together someone that could kind of go for what we like.
Well, marching without a destination.
I would say that, and without us getting into such a heavily weighted political discussion, I will say that and I'll put this on the table for certainly for open debate. It can be considered that the African American culture is in fact very much in line with what American culture is in general. I mean, American culture, by certainly assumed definition, would be a melting pot, that proverbial term, whether it is a patchwork comforter, if you will, of many different patches that make the final comforter in the end. See what I'm saying?
I think it is a melting pot, but unfortunately, only one group of people want to be able to stir the pot. They want to own the pot,
and want to eat from the pot.
Exactly.
Right.
I have to agree with Lex on that. I mean, and I'm gonna say this, and this might seem a little way out, but we own this country. I know it doesn't seem like we don't profit from it.
Yeah.
But our culture, our backs built Washington, D.C. Our backs built Philadelphia. Our backs went and helped to forge the lands and made the metropolises that exist. Our culture is rock and roll. They don't have it without us. Blues, gospel, they don't have it without us. Hip-hop, they don't have it without us. We created the modern day, even from jazz on all the way through. Everything that exists in the United States American pop culture is ours. We own that shit. And the problem is sometimes we like to hand it over by saying, hey, we need to see what we're going to go. Look, fight for our blood. Fight for what we put in. My grandparents, one came from Guyana, the other one came from Jamaica. My other grandparents, one was from Texas, and the other, the other side of the family, look, the Jefferson blacks, they were high brown, they were passing, but, we don't talk about them too much. But the problem is sometimes we hand over what is ours, our land, our blood. We had people that died in all the wars.
Right.
And we deserve to earn and get and receive what is ours here. We own this shit. I don't take it lightly when motherfuckers say, when they out there marching and stuff, and they say, okay, well, we just marching. Why are we marching? Because we need to. Because this shit is ours just as much as theirs. We have a part of it. Now, we don't profit as much, and that's where we got to get to. But besides that, this shit is just as much ours as any of those motherfuckers. Anyone that stands up and tries to talk about the Constitution, they're talking about me and my people as well, because we're the ones that opened that Constitution up to make sure it's a living, breathing reality. They didn't do that shit. They put that in there, and they was talking about owning people in the Constitution. It was our blood and our people and our minds that opened that shit up to everyone.
All right, now,
I'm not going off on a tangent, but I really wanted to say that because it's important. We forget that.
No. And certainly enough, that was a point that was very necessary to be entered into the conversation. But I will ask you this. Do you think that progress is made where, as a community, we are continually saying in an us versus them disposition? Whereas I've never been a proponent of separatism. I'm not a Marcus Garvey type of individual. That does not make me a proponent of W.E. Du Bois. Well, I do appreciate what he espoused as by way of comparison to a Marcus Garvey. So I'm not into necessarily separatism from that standpoint. Do you think it's necessary for us as a community to stop thinking so much of us versus them, they versus we, and think we collective, because I think perhaps the answer comes when there's a cohesion to arrive at that final solution.
But we don't create the us versus them.
Well,
it's the them that put the pressure on us.
He's talking about in our reaction.
Yeah,
he's talking about in reaction we, how do we say? I think our heads are big enough to hold it all in, brother.
Okay,
I really do.
Okay, Andre, there was one woman, not to cut you off, Dave, but there was one woman that was preaching separatism, and she was stating that no one outside the African American community should be marching in these circumstances.
No, she didn't. She was saying that no one should comment or get into the discussion concerning us that's because it's about us. Listening to someone else or having someone else address or put their 2 cents in, it shouldn't be allowed because it's our issue.
You know what? We don't get to choose who marches and what sets off people to march. I've really learned that in my years of reporting on protests and being, even when I was down with the Occupy, we don't get to choose what becomes the symbol. It just happens. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. And when just like this young brother just said, he has questions, and he has questions he needs to ask the young people in the movement. He needs to stand up there and ask them because they need to be asked those questions. They think about it. If you go to Black Lives Matter on the internet, you'll see they actually have their national, what they want nationally, what they want locally for each chapter and all that. But the point is that he's strong enough in his opinion to ask those questions. And I'm saying that I think what you said Lex, about should we be us against them? I think we can incorporate it all. I talk to people and tell them about Elijah Muhammad. And, if you really read, what he had to say and how he kind of twisted Islam, and people say, well, it wasn't the Orthodox Islam, and yes, his son, Wallace Dean, had to bring actually the Nation of Islam into Orthodoxy. But Elijah Muhammad was what was needed. Here's the incredible thing that he did. In less than a generation, he turned many black people in the United States of America and added to our lexicon the idea of being full citizens with a history and a culture and an importance. And if nothing else, that's one of the most important things you can do. But if you go read, what he had to say, a message to the black man, or some of that stuff is a little out there. Right. But our heads are big enough to hold that. You dig what I'm saying? Like, we can say, okay, we dig that you were kind of crazy with that, but we understand what you accomplished. We understand what you accomplished. And I think we're broad enough to incorporate it all,
Okay. But there is a caveat, whereas a lot of times, if the African American leadership comes from Christian versus Muslim, that there is a schism that exists within our community that leads to fissures, if you will, in our chinks in our mail, if you will. So there's a number of things that need to be smoothed out. I just don't think we can arrive there without a cohesion amongst all Americans.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm a straight up atheist, all right, from the floor up. But I recognize that one of our great organizing principles for black people in the United States of America has been the church. It was historically, right? Look at the great leaders that came out of there. Malcolm, he came from the clergy. Adam Clayton Powell, he came from the clergy. Martin Luther King, he came from the clergy. So, and like I said, Elijah Muhammad, he came from the clergy. So, and they were very organized. They were only one of the only organizing principles we were given, right? We weren't allowed into unions. We weren't allowed to own certain businesses and properties and whatnot. So that's where we could gather. That's where we can get our politics together. I think we moved on from that. But I have to recognize that, and I'm cool with that. I can stand next to a Christian in a protest sign and not trip. I don't see the disparate behavior in this next generation coming up, though. So I think that's really cool.
Well, there seems that maybe there's a disparity, between those that feel there's a reason to push ahead, and there's those that just feel that hell with it.
Well, on that positive note, I would love to have you come down to the studio sometime, V. You hit on some valid points, and man, it was a great discussion tonight.
Man, I was trying to get it all in because I know y'all be hitting heavy down there, you know what I mean? So I really appreciate the opportunity, and I think you need to listen to that young man because he has an opinion that you're going to see more and more in the street where he's questioning not just what his people are doing, he's going to start questioning us. Where the hell were y'all? What the hell what's up with Snoop Dogg? Why did all this go down? Right. How did this happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do we take steps back?
Who killed Biggie? Who killed Tupac? Can you? Hey,
why did y'all let him get away with that?
That means a lot to me too.
Can you tell us where people can check you out, B, before we let you go?
Oh, Brandon Boland at the HuffingtonPost.com. You can also check me out at Brandon Boland's The Under. That's on YouTube. Brandon Boland's The Under.
And you're on Facebook as well?
Yes, sir. I'm on Facebook, but I don't open myself up to too many Facebook people because we be crazy on Facebook, so I can't leave that alone.
I hear you on that.
Well, thanks for the call, bro. I'm gonna talk to you soon.
Dig it. Nice talking to y'all. Y'all take care.
Okay, thanks very much, bro.
All right.
Cool. So, we could get into so many different things here on the Man Cave. Yeah. We touched on quite a few topics. One major topic, several ways to look at it.
Yeah.
Of course, there's several ways to, how many licks does it take to get to the bottom of a pudding pop? And speaking of pudding pops, where I'm going with this.
I gotta keep that away from some people.
So, people, and I know we spoke about this last week, but while there are another 2 or 3 more women that came up in the Bill Cosby circumstance, no charges have been filed yet. I just think it's a conspiracy to obliterate a legacy, one of Bill Cosby. Of course, that's open to debate. We'll reach that some other time.
Yes, definitely. Next week.
You know what I'm saying? So keep your eyes out for what's happening in North Korea, people. The national security, the NSA, it has gotten involved. The National Security Agency has gotten involved in our preparing our cyber defenses against any potential cyber attacks.
Our inside job is a ploy. They're going to take over the internet. Just want more control over us.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I digress.
Well, let's see. Hopefully that will not happen, but I think it'll be a challenging thing at the very, very least to do that. We do have U.S. Cyber Command Admiral Mike Rogers, who was speaking at the International Cyber Security Conference in New York City. He says that they are getting their things together and their defenses are prepared to combat any type of cyber attacks going on to the future. And so just to make sure we know where they can find you, Isaiah, in Twitter, Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I'm at Isaiah Maxwell. That's ISIAHMAXEELL. And I'm not hard to find. I'm on Instagram as well, iKingJamesIV, and my other Twitter is iKingJamesIV for the publicity department.
Cool.
Well, check us out Saturday on OWN. It's going down. Raising Whitley. I'll be on there Saturday, 7 o'clock.
Now, 7 o'clock Pacific.
Yes.
On the OWN network.
Yes.
Raising Whitley.
Yes, sir. I'm excited.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna watch. I'm on that too. I got to find out when my episode's coming up.
Exactly.
For all the good people here at the Man Cave Live Show, and thank you for joining us here on LATalkRadio.com. We will be back Thursday night next week, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific time. I'm your man Lex Steele. Take care, peace, and God bless. Good night.
You're listening to The Man Cave with Lexington Steele and co-hosts Andre Lavelle and John E. Depth, right here on LA Talk Radio.